Greetings to all. I am Chris Dorr, historian and writer, author of the book Guide to the Conspiracy. I have a new guest with us today called Richard Lайтхауса. He exposes gang stalking in his website rlighthouse.com and also in his website targetjustice.com that you can see in the description below. He has written 100 ebooks, some of them you can find it on his website for free. He has worked for NASA and holds a master's degree in mechanical engineering. Hi Richard, how are you?
Hi, good afternoon, Chris. Thanks for having me on your show.
Thank you. Okay, I want to start talking about gang stalking. What gang stalking is for the people who does not know and maybe watching these interviews for the first time. So you could help us understand what organized harassment or gang stalking is, which are the techniques used, and what a target individual is.
Yeah, that's a good question to start with, Chris. A targeted individual is someone that's been selected by the deep state. What we typically call the deep state involves a number of government agencies here in the United States and some international as well, including the FBI, the CIA, DHS, NSA. They're selected by these agencies to participate in what is basically an experimental torture program. The program is selecting people that are political activists, labor union leaders, whistleblowers, scientists that won't agree with the dogma that comes from the government. So these people are deliberately targeted and put into this, it's a torture program, basically. This has been going on for many years. We have some evidence that dates back to the 1950s when the CIA first started the MK Ultra program. So it's very important people that understand that this is a long-term coordinated effort funded and run by the CIA. This is not Russia, it's not China, it's the CIA. The CIA works very closely with what I refer to as the warmongers of the Council on Foreign Relations. These are very wealthy, powerful people, many of whom are close friends with the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds. They are the owners of the Federal Reserve Bank, the central banks all over the world. So these are very wealthy, powerful people that are using the CIA and the FBI to do their dirty work. So a targeted individual, one of the many things that are done is they are gang stalked, and that's probably not a term that many people are familiar with. We have a thorough definition on our website at targetedjustice.com. I encourage folks to look that up. Gang stalking is where groups such as the Fusion Centers, InfraGard, and Citizen Corps, which are lower level groups in the United States, coordinate an effort of harassment against these individual citizens. Targeted individuals are placed on the terror watch list here in the United States, and they're tracked in this database as non-investigative subjects, which is really a misnomer, because the FBI claims that these people are known or suspected terrorists, and yet they identify them on this list as a non-investigative subject. Why would you claim someone is a known or suspected terrorist, but you're not going to investigate it? So obviously the FBI knows that people like myself and yourself are not actual terrorists. But the intent is to treat people as one, to justify the harassment and the microwave attacks that occur. So that's kind of a long answer, I guess, but it's a good start.
Yes, that's a very good start. Okay, you said who is behind the program, which was my second question. And so let's start talking about the direct energy weapons and what they do to target individuals and the whole population of an entire country, as it may be possible, the military use these weapons, and this is a fact known by the public. They don't hide this. What they hide is the use in innocent civilians on innocent civilians. So please help us understand how these weapons work.
So the directed energy weapons, we've got a number of very important documents on targetedjustice.com under the technology tab. And there's a number of tabs underneath that one that goes into more detail. But basically, microwave weapons were first developed here in the United States by a man named Donald J. Sullivan. And he obtained a patent working in Albuquerque, New Mexico, under what was called the Air Force Weapons Lab or the Air Force Research Lab. And that first weapon they developed that produces a microwave beam. It's a very narrow, just like a laser beam, but it's composed of microwaves. And that weapon is called a Vircator, VIRCATOR. And the patent for it, for those that want to look it up, is US patent number 4345220. Anyone can look this up and see that this weapon is very real. After receiving the patent, Mr. Sullivan assigned that patent to the US Air Force. So we know who provided the funding for this. These weapons, we have actual pictures of them. And these weapons were first launched into orbit as part of President Reagan's Star Wars program. Most people think that the Star Wars program had to do with lasers. It actually has to do with microwave beam weapons. So if you've ever accidentally put a piece of metal in your microwave oven, you see it'll start sparking and heating up very quickly. That's essentially what the Star Wars program or Strategic Defense Initiative was designed to do. These are space-based weapons that can target the nose cone of a ballistic missile and fry the electronics in the nose cone and basically destroy the navigation system very quickly. And so, unfortunately, those weapons were quickly turned on people on the ground. And the precision pointing is extremely precise. By extremely precise, I mean they can track the same spot right on the top of your head, the tracking system, within less than half of an inch or less than 1 centimeter anywhere in the world. It's extremely accurate. So if it's a ballistic missile they want to track, they can point it at the nose cone, lock onto that target, and fry the electronics internally in a matter of seconds. They can turn down the intensity on this weapon and direct it at people on the ground, which we have pictures on our website that anyone can view that is proof that these weapons are being used on civilians. Under the Geneva Convention's Rule 7C, intentional targeting of civilians is considered a war crime, and that war crime is punishable by the death penalty. So the reason we bring that out is that individuals such as General John Raymond, who is in charge of the US Space Force, has direct authority and control of these microwave weapons. We want it made clear that we're accusing this man of war crimes. We want him prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Also, the UN Convention Against Torture, which was drafted initially in 1984, was signed by the United States in 1988. Gang stalking that we previously, that's considered psychological torture. That is an international crime. It's a crime against humanity. These are very serious crimes and very serious charges. We do not make them lightly. It's very important that the world knows what is happening and what these weapons are being used for.
Yeah, it's absolutely very important. Okay, I also contact you because I watched your interview about subliminal messages. Please tell us all you know about them.
Well, That's a good question, Chris. The subliminal messaging is a complex subject because most people aren't aware of it. That is why it is subliminal. We've been able to use scientific instruments to measure the frequencies between 450 and 700 megahertz. And we've had a number of different targeted individuals provide us data from their own signal analyzers. So the best way to measure that is with what's called a signal analyzer. There's many of them on the market. And one of the targeting methods that the CIA is using is called voice to skull, or V2K. You'll hear that term a lot. The first statistical analysis that Targeted Justice did back in 2018, we found that approximately 2/3 of the targeted individuals have this very disabling form of targeting called voice to skull. It's basically constant hate-filled messages at the individual, which nobody else can hear. The V2K is actually discovered by a scientist named Dr. Alan Fry back in the early 60s. So it's frequently called the Fry effect or the microwave auditory effect. There's numerous patents on these technologies. They can use a scalar wave as a carrier wave, and it can penetrate buildings, floors, many floors. If you're experiencing the V2K, you can even get 12 feet underwater in a swimming pool, and the scalar beam weapon, which is the carrier wave, will actually follow you, track you under the water, and continue to send these hate-filled messages, even underwater. That's one of the reasons we know that this is a scalar wave, because radar waves, ordinary microwaves, X-rays, even X-rays would not penetrate 12 feet of water. So we're absolutely certain that the carrier wave for this is a scalar wave. And scalar waves can be created by the weapon I mentioned earlier, which is the Vercator. So I encourage folks to look that up, look that patent up. We've also identified the patent for the voice to skull. And that is listed on our homepage. We've got a number of signs and diagrams that are very important for people to understand, and it allows you to digest much of the technology that's going on by just looking at these diagrams. We've got on our homepage a diagram that we refer to as the satellite diagram, and it shows, let me pull that up real quick. It shows a number of, it shows basically what we call the 4-step process of how the tracking and targeting works. So step 1 is a Lockheed GPS satellite. The Lockheed manufactures these satellites in Littleton, Colorado, just outside of Denver. These are very sophisticated satellites that have very high-speed computer processors in them. They can track millions and millions and millions of people all at the same time. They bounce a tracking signal off the top back part of your head. Everyone in the United States, and it appears to be most of the people in the world, are being tracked by these satellites. There's 24 of them in orbit, including 6 spares. So if one of their satellites gets knocked down, knocked out, or goes dead for whatever reason, they can very quickly move another satellite in to take its place. The coordinates that tracking satellite gets are relayed through a sophisticated system of tracking and relay satellites back to Schriever Air Force Base. That's where the supercomputer is that does all the analysis and can identify anyone anywhere in the world within a second. And Schriever Air Force Base uses that to direct attacks via cell towers and also satellites frequently. So they can communicate, Schriever Air Force Base can communicate directly with cell towers anywhere in the world. This is an amazing, complex set of technology that was put together over many, many years. This has been going on for decades. And typically the president and senators and congressmen know nothing about this program. That's quite deliberate. Nelson Rockefeller, who was vice president under Gerald Ford, set up a very complex system of security clearances that basically denies intelligence information to the president and to senators and congressmen by simply saying you don't have the security clearance. So unfortunately, we have members of our military with top secret clearances that are higher than the president, and the president is not allowed to know the intelligence information. It's a very disturbing situation, and one that clearly is not part of a democratic form of government. So that's something that we have to work on. It's something that needs to be changed. And as we try to get this message out, we will want to ensure that those rules that were set in place are taken away. There should be no information that is intelligence or classified that's unavailable to our key lawmakers in Congress and Senate, or certainly not the president. But little segue, getting back to the subliminal messages, they come from cell towers almost all the time. And these subliminal messages are directed at everyone, every single person in the United States, and certainly many people in Spain and in Europe are also getting subliminal messaging 24 hours a day from these cell towers. That's one of the reasons they've been effective at getting people to take the vaccine, because they've spread information. Oh, you want to get the vaccine and don't worry about it. Whatever subliminal messages were necessary to get people to accept the vaccine. Targeted justice, by the way, does not recommend taking any experimental vaccines or medicine. There is no liability to the manufacturer. If you are harmed in any way or killed, there's no liability to the manufacturer. That should be your first clue that it's not something you want to take. We also have a diagram on our homepage that describes, we encourage people to print them out, and we've made them into magnets that you can put on your car. That patent that I mentioned that describes how a message can be directed at one person so that nobody else can hear it. It's US patent number 4877027. And I encourage people to look that patent up. It's been out there for many years, and it provides a technical means to direct subliminal messages or hate-filled messages at any single person. And it can be done 24 hours a day by a computer. Schriever Air Force Base uses software that's very familiar to Adobe Voco. That's VOCO. It's a computer program that can mimic any person's voice. So frequently you have targeted individuals that claim that their ex-spouse that they divorced last year, or their ex-boyfriend is speaking 24 hours a day at their head. And we have to explain to them, no, that's a computer generated voice. You know, your ex-husband could not possibly talk straight 24 hours a day, every day. That's obviously a computer generated voice. So it's that they use whatever voice is most upsetting to the individual. And unfortunately, that's part of the psychological torture that is used on targeted individuals. So again, I encourage folks to visit our website, targetedjustice.com, or my personal website, which is rlighthouse.com. Both of those are free. Most of the ebooks that all of the ebooks that I've written for targeted individuals are free. They're available at the bottom of the homepage on targetedjustice.com. So if you'll scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see many ebooks that I've written for the benefit of targeted individuals. They're all free. Another long answer for a good question, Chris.
Yes, a good answer, Richard. Yeah, one thing I wanted to ask you is you recorded some of the subliminal messages, and which are the messages you can hear?
Yes, we've had a number of targeted individuals that have found methods to record the voices. So taking an ordinary microphone, and we recommend what's called a unidirectional microphone that can only take sound from one direction. And it's very important to identify the cell tower around you that's broadcasting those messages at the individual. And the way a diaphragm inside that microphone is set up, it will demodulate from the carrier wave much of that voice signal. It may be necessary to use some signal processing, such as noise compression, Dolby noise reduction, things like that, so that you can get out the background chatter. And we've had a number of targeted individuals successfully record these voices and messages. So if you're a TI or you suspect that you're receiving subliminal messages, we encourage you to take, it doesn't require an expensive microphone, just the ability to take some time and use a unidirectional microphone and try pointing it in different directions until you get some good results. So it can be done. We've seen it.
That's good. That's a good way to record subliminal messages. And another question will be, how can we detect the direct energy weapons?
That's a good question, Chris. So one of the things that we spent a great deal of time on in 2018 and 2019 was trying to educate people about these microwave beams coming from cell towers, and you can actually feel them on the back of your hand. If you hold your hand out and turn 360 degrees around you very slowly, you will feel the pulses, the microwave pulses right in your knuckles. The cartilage of your knuckles are very sensitive to the microwave pulses, and you can actually feel it's directed, the cell towers will direct that microwave pulse at the center of your head. So without using any expensive scientific equipment, you can turn around very slowly, and when you find one, you can move it back and forth, and you can feel where that pulse is being directed at your head. And with just a little bit of effort, almost anyone can do this. It doesn't matter whether you're a targeted individual or not. Everyone is being tracked and hit with these microwave pulses. The other thing that we recommend is cupping your hands over your ears, just like this. And many people will be able to hear what we call the popcorn. And it sounds just like popcorn. Some people claim it sounds more like a telegraph signal, like dee 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 dee, but for most people, it sounds like popcorn pops in another room, and it's very noticeable. But if you just get in a quiet room, it doesn't matter if you're in a building or outside, even just in a quiet area, cup your hands over your ears and listen for 30 seconds or more, and you'll be able to hear that. You'll be able to hear that the popcorn pops. So I encourage folks to try that. The other thing you can do is what's called a signal analyzer. We have found the FCC has set aside frequencies in the range of 3,600 to 3,700 megahertz. That's 3.6 to 3.75 roughly gigahertz, same thing. And they use that to track the top of your head very precisely. A signal analyzer that's capable of that frequency will confirm that you're getting a pulse, and it can sense that pulse anywhere around you. It's spread out over a larger area than your head. And the other thing you'll notice is a Vercator signal that's approximately 3920 to 3935 megahertz. So slightly higher frequency will show up on your spectrum analyzer. The lower frequency that's at a quieter volume is the tracking signal, and then a Vercator pulse will follow it up about once a second. And it will just track the very center location that identifies as the center point on your head. I won't get too much into the GPS technology, but basically 4 of these tracking satellites are required to precisely get your GPS coordinates, latitude and longitude and altitude for the top point of your head. And it does this 24 hours a day, every second of every day. And those 4 satellites are always overhead and can see the top of your head. This technology is not new technology. It's been around for more than 30 years. People are stunned when they realize how much technology has been developed over the last several decades that are completely unknown to even many scientists. NASA, for example, was using this technology to measure snow depth or wave heights anywhere in the world. They could precisely pick up the same point somewhere in northern Canada and find out how much the snow depth was from one year to the next. It's very accurate, very accurate. So I encourage folks to look into that. This technology is very real. Unfortunately, it's being used for very bad purposes. And we are Targeted Justice going to great lengths to see that we can shut this down.
Yeah, I hope we will. Thank you so much for your answer. We could say after this explanation that the deep state wants to mind control the entire population of the planet. How can we wake up to the reality of the world and wake up others to stop these horrible crimes? And can you tell us what Target Justice is doing in this respect in this area?
That's a good question, Chris. Targeted Justice was formed in December of 2017. Our mission statement is listed on our homepage. It says very clearly that we seek to educate, raise awareness, and pursue legal action to get these illegal operations shut down. And they're complicated. Government officials in every major country in the world were involved. We've received emails and communications from more than 60 countries all over the world. So we know that this is a global thing. It's happening everywhere. I wish it were simple to shut it down. If it was simple to shut it down, we would have done so a long time ago. Targeted Justice has put a lot of time and effort into research. We're one of the few organizations that has world-class research, and we've been able to compile that and put that into diagrams that people can understand, so they understand exactly what's going on. But it's not going to get shut down by people passively standing around. It's very important that people contact their congressmen, their senators. If you're in a foreign country, contact your legislators and tell them, share these diagrams with them and say, this is real. This is being funded by the CIA. The weapons are operated by the US Space Force out of Schriever Air Force Base. It's very important people understand exactly what's going on and who's behind it. In spite of the disinformation put out by the CIA, it's run by the CIA. This is not Russia or China. Although Russia and China clearly have microwave weapons, they're not attacking US citizens with it. So watch for more disinformation from the CIA, because they're going to go to great lengths to try to deny that they're the ones funding it and operating it. But we are well aware of it. Targeted Justice went to Austin, Texas here this past week, and we spoke with more than 120 legislators. We went to their offices, door to door, and spoke with as many as we could, or leave a flyer where we couldn't. And we were very successful in getting awareness from these legislators and their staff. They were shocked and dismayed to realize that this program is very real and has been happening for many years. So we need this to happen in every state in the United States, and we need to happen in Spain and Europe and in Asia as well. You've got to get to the legislators with simple information that they can understand, so that they can do something about it. One of the most important efforts at Targeted Justice is we've identified many of the corporations that provide, design, and build the technology, such as Lockheed, Raytheon, Honeywell, L3 Technologies, AT&T, Crown Castle. These are many of the companies that are knowingly, willingly involved in this and being paid very handsomely for their participation and their silence. They know it's a crime, but the payoffs are so big for them that they're keeping it silent. It's very important that we get the truth out. We get people to understand that many of these companies are involved. And if you're an employee in one of those companies, why would you want to participate in this? If you're an employee in some of these companies I've just mentioned, please help us get the word out. Please help us identify the executives and the management that is involved in this. These are literally war crimes. War crimes are punishable by the death penalty. This is not my law. This is the United Nations Geneva Conventions. These war crimes are extremely serious. Crimes against humanity, that was done during the UN Conventions Against Torture from 1984. So all the countries, which is most of the major countries in the world, have signed on to these agreements. It's not something you can just walk away from. So very important that we tell people, we tell city council, state legislatures, county, your mayor, contact the mayor's office and provide them with simple details and information, not too much information, but encourage them to go to websites such as targetedjustice.com. All of our information on there is free. You can copy and download the diagrams and the flyers that are on there. It's all free. We encourage you to suggest that Targeted Justice was the source of that information, but the main point is to print it out, copy it, share it, distribute it. That's the only way we're going to shut down these programs.
That's a very good answer. One question I wanted to ask you, and we didn't, you didn't say nothing about it, is that how can we protect from these weapons? I know it's almost impossible, but there must be a way or some techniques we can use.
There are shielding, metal shielding. I've done numerous tests with the metal shielding. It was slightly beneficial, not terribly helpful. The problem is the carrier signal, or what we call the carrier wave for engineers and scientists, is a scalar wave. A scalar wave is different than an ordinary electromagnetic wave. Ordinary microwaves travel like a sine wave. Even frequencies up to light and X-rays, they move just like a sine wave. A scalar wave is unique because it's sometimes called a longitudinal wave. It vibrates in the direction of motion. So think of it like a very fine silk thread that can literally, it's so fine, it can go through an atom and never touch anything. So you're dealing with something that is fundamentally different from ordinary electromagnetic wave phenomena that even engineers and scientists are used to thinking in terms of. If you go to a technical website called archive.org, and it's spelled arxiv.org, you can look up technical papers there. And if you search the term scalar wave, you'll find that there are hundreds of technical papers by credible university scientists that will tell you, yes, scalar waves are real. They were discovered by Mr. Tesla more than 100 years ago. So even though that knowledge and information is gradually filtering out, many engineers and scientists have never heard of it and don't understand its basic properties. So unfortunately, with a scalar wave or a scalar weapon, it can easily penetrate metallic shielding and even a Faraday cage, which a Faraday cage in normal terms would be like building a metal box around yourself or around a piece of computer equipment that you want to protect. And it will block, if it's properly sealed, it will block the electromagnetic frequencies. So the scalar wave can easily penetrate that, unfortunately, regardless of the frequency that it's using. So what we found at Targeted Justice is water is actually a better shielding method than metals. Water absorbs microwaves. So the way these scalar waves hurt so much and why targeted individuals complain about them is the scalar wave actually, if it's pointed at your head, it goes right through you. But that scalar wave drags along in a wake field, ionized or charged particles that it picks up from the atmosphere. And these particles, the scalar wave itself will travel at the speed of light, but the particles that are captured in its field are not traveling at the speed of light. They're traveling at some fraction of that, but it's fast enough that it can cause you a great deal of pain when it hits your head. And depending on the intensity that they use for this weapon can determine how painful it is. But we have had a number of targeted individuals that have died from these attacks. So yes, they can be lethal. It's very typical to attack the heart, to attack the head, various organs in the body. Women are targeted in their areas that they're most sensitive. It's very disturbing, but the shielding that we almost always recommend is water. You can use water pillows, Ziploc bags filled with water, leather, true original leather. If you've got an old purse, an old leather purse made of real leather, we found that also acts as a good shield. So that combined with the water can really reduce your attacks And again, it's not going to block out all of it, but it is helpful.
Thank you so much for your explanation. Okay, another question that I would like to answer to ask you is, do you believe 5G technology is related to the targeting and direct energy weapons attacks? Or it has
Yes,
nothing to do with it?
that's a good question, Chris. We are aware that the 5G technology is being used as a weapon. In fact, it started with, the earlier Gs. 3G and 4G was also capable of creating what's called digital beamforming. So if a panel antenna are those large rectangles that you see on the side of a cell tower, that's called a panel antenna. And when they put two or more of those side by side, they work together to create a digital beam. In other words, just like a laser beam, these two antennas can work together and create a digital beam. They can use even more than that, and it will create an even more precise beam. In fact, they've gotten very good at this, what they call beam shaping, so that satellites in orbit can create very unusual shapes that will minimize jamming or spoofing of their signal. So rather than broadcasting a beam down at the ground, they can shape it into a half moon or a crescent shape and avoid the area on the ground that is picking up the target and jamming it. So there's many sophisticated things that can be done with digital beamforming. And I encourage you to look that term up. This is not classified technology. Anybody can purchase this technology. It's look up the term beamforming. It also involves what's called MIMO, M-I-M-O. And massive MIMO, it involves phased array antennas that broadcast signals at slightly different times to create the ability for a microwave signal to go much farther than it ordinarily would in the atmosphere. For example, a signal that would be absorbed by the moisture in the atmosphere can use a waveform where one wave builds on top of the next wave. Just think of it like if you've ever seen the ocean where one wave is approaching the shore and the wave behind it will come up top of it and go much higher than the first wave did. So it's by combining waves, and I'm oversimplifying it a little bit, but it allows the antennas to combine waves to let the signal go farther. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. But 5G is being deployed all over the world. There's a gentleman in the United Kingdom, his name is Mark Steele, and he used to work for the Ministry of Defense, and he had a very high level security clearance, and he was briefed in meetings about what the Ministry of Defense in the UK calls a global distributed weapon system. That is the 5G panel antennas that are placed on cell towers everywhere. It is a highly secretive, globally distributed weapon system. And this gentleman has gone out of his way to try to, he became a whistleblower. He's got a website that you can find in the UK. So this clearly is not just happening in the United States. It's happening in Europe. NATO is involved. These weapons are being used in Africa and Asia, in Australia, everywhere. It's very important that people realize the government is using this to send subliminal messages, but also to attack targeted individuals. These panel antennas can create a digital beam that is very painful and even lethal in some instances. So we need people to understand that the true purpose of 5G isn't just so that you can stream Netflix better and easier. It is a weapon system.
I made an interview to Mark Steele, and actually he was talking about this, that you can beam people, you can target people with these 5G antennas. So, yes. Okay, finally, I think you kind of answered this question, but anyway, let's get deeper into that. How can target individuals expose these crimes and seek for help?
It's very important for the TIs that are watching this all over the world. Targeted justice needs your help. The other TI groups, we recommend other TI groups as well. Join a group, get involved, be active. Please don't sit on the couch and wait for somebody else to do this. It's very important that you be active and get involved. That's what will prove to the CIA that the program is ineffective. To the extent you're sitting on the couch and feeling sorry for yourself, you're proving that the CIA's goals are working. They want you to lay down and shut up. Don't do it. We need you to talk to your city council people, talk to your mayor's office, print out the diagrams and the flyers that we've got on targetedjustice.com. It's free. You can tell your neighbors about it. We've got, I've got a magnet on the back of my truck that says, stop satellite terrorism and refers people to targetedjustice.com. We need more of that. We need it to be very obvious out in public that will help people become aware and raise awareness about these horrible crimes. On our website is a tab called How to Fight Back, and it lists more than a dozen different things that you as a targeted individual can do to help us fight back. These are things that you can do by yourself or in a group. We've tried them ourselves. They're very effective, but the least effective thing you can do is stay at home and feel sorry for yourself. Don't do that. Make an effort, come up with a plan, get with other targeted individuals. We recommend going in a group as opposed to yourself when you can. There's many people you can talk to. Here in the United States, and I'm sure it's true in Spain and Europe as well, every city council meeting for a major city, if you want to speak to the city council members as a group, they will give you 3 minutes. Anyone can register in advance and go to a city council meeting, and they will give you 3 minutes to talk about anything you want to talk about. We've got information right off of Targeted Justice that you can stand in front of that city council and read. We've got diagrams and flyers that you can make copies of and hand out. Please get involved. We urge everyone who is a targeted individual and those that support our efforts to get involved. That's the best way to expose and shut down this program.
That's great. Thank you so much, Richard. So we are going to end this interview, and I just wanted to thank you so much for this amazing interview and explanations about what direct energy weapons is, what gang stalking is, target individuals, and 5G and more. And so thank you so much, Richard, and wish you the best. I hope everyone joins targetjustice.com and go visit your website and please join in this fight for freedom and justice.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.